Good morning, Azeroth. It is the 2nd of June 2025. Grab your morning beverage and welcome to the stream. Today we'll be checking out the new trading post rewards, seeing what's on offer before we jump into our weekly delves and grab up some gilded crests. Without any further ado, let's get stuck in. Hope you're all doing well today. It's the start of the week. Take it steady. Keep yourselves hydrated. You've got this. There wasn't much on the trading post last month that I was after, so I have some tendies saved up. Let's go and see what's on offer. Bunch of tendies.
It's a fine day for trade.
What have we got? Big double-headed wyvern. That's a nice model. I think they put like a Legion variant on the shop. You know, I don't tend to go in for mounts. It is a nice looking mount though, I do have to admit. What else we got? Fiery plate set. I'm not a big fan of the curl forward horns, but it's not a bad set. Then a blue variation. Without the chest piece for some reason, albeit the same price. Still says there's a chest piece, which is interesting. I can't see one. A goat. Oh. Volcano Stone Great Helm. Super strong, but held barely together by arcane magics. Inferno variant. Oh, so it's just going to be a lot of fire for the midsummer stuff. Ooh, it's a nice looking Sindori polearm. The Badish. Drenched in the sun forges of Silvermoon. Furium radiance of the Sunwell courses through this blessed weapon. You know what? That's pretty nice. Do some fancy stuff with that. Void variant. You know, it kind of goes with the outfit I'm rocking right now. Dagger. Morning, Screet. How are you doing this morning, Bob? You doing alright? We're just looking through the new monthly offerings on the trading post before we get on with our delves. Aye, a big old Badish. Don't see too many of these in WoW. Gun. Very dark iron. What a light. Oh, have a good time with the flavour text. And a blue variation. Again, I don't tend to use guns when I'm on my hunter. I tend to go for bows. Got more of the hood stuff. Orange and green this month. The shoulder capes. Brown, we always get up the shoulder capes. Grab those straight away. We're still on this fascination with the long skirts. I am managing Bo, but no, we have not played any Night Train yet, but I've got it installed. Got the thumbnail made. We'll be ready to go this evening. I've heard terrible things for the solo player, but otherwise, it seems like the kind of game with the roguelike mechanics that I'm very much going to enjoy. Ooh. Full shredder. Not for me again on the mount side, but sure. But we'll open it up to folks who want to jump in. If you're about at any point during the evening stream. I don't know whether it'll be password or whatnot yet. I have to look for the summer outfit. Very snazzy. Not for me, but very snazzy. You see a lot of folks transmogging these. Bloody Murloc life wrapped. Pet. And beach chair. Oh, nice pride beach chair. Very nice. Well, not loads I want to spend me cosmetics on. I know there's a patch coming at some point this week that's going to make it easier solo. They're going to give you one of those auto-revive things that solo players can buy and tweak the balancing a little bit. But I'm curious overall. I don't mind beating my head into a wall. We've just been doing so with Doom on the harder difficulty. And the other two difficulties on Doom I learned at the end of that stream are exactly the same, Except it's more permadeath, which is like, huh? Do I buy one of the fancy skulls? If I do, it's the blue one. I can't see. I never really use full face helms. I tend to like a bit of my character showing. But we're absolutely going to pick up the Badish. And the Void one does go with my current set. It really does. But I like using my hammer. And there's a lot of elemental axes. I don't see us really needing any of those. Might just save up more tendies. We'll have another 500 or so to earn. To be fair. Of getting the Void one just to have. Go on then. As for the fire stuff, it's alright. There's going to be better. There's going to be better in months down the line. We'll call it there for those. What's the reward at the end of the list? It's a mount. Oh, and it's the fire version. Alright, well, we get one anyway. It's a lot of nice effects on the wings as well. Very highlight. Not bad at all. Right, then if I'm not mistaken, the Dastardly Duos leaderboard mode comes out tomorrow. Yeah, it says it begins on the 3rd, so not waiting for the reset, which is interesting. They don't usually drop stuff on a Tuesday. They usually wait for the reset, so we'll see how that goes. Don't know what the 1,000 boat bash is. May go investigate. I'll do some research. Alright. My arm's bugged out. Let's crack on with our delves for the day. What have we got? None here. Right in the deeps. Excavation site 9. Sinkhole. Ugh, underwater delves. And the spiral weave. Where's the 4th one? We might only do 3 to be fair. I don't need more than 3 days. Ah, it's Techrican Abyss. Another underwater one. Yeah, we might just do the 3 a day. Because I'm pretty geared up when it comes to getting hero gear in each slot. Just double check. Yeah, so we don't actually need the Great Vault to be bumped up. Let's make our way to the excavation site first. Then,
the core way is usable again.
have you found the Night Rain yourself then, Scree? How many of those 8 bosses on that final night have you gotten to and you're playing over at weekend? I know there's going to be a lot to learn, and whether it is with folks or solo, I imagine I'm not going to do fantastic, but I do love me a roguelike. There's a game that came out some years ago called Curse of the Dead God, which was a really solid roguelike. It's ever since Hades came out, it's inevitable to draw that comparison. But it really stood out for itself. They had an art style that felt very similar to Darkest Dungeon. And they've just released recently a new roguelike called Raven Watch, which has come out of early access. And it's kind of your fairy tale characters, your Red Riding Hoods, some Beowulf, the Pied Piper, that kind of thing. Really solid roguelike. I was enjoying playing that yesterday. Red Riding, there's a night and day cycle. Red Riding Hood turns into full-on werewolf in the night time. Great stuff. I run yesterday with Geppetto. And you make little Pinocchios for yourself, and it was the only character I've cleared the game on so far on the easiest difficulty. Turns out when you have a squad of 4 dummies with you, they just beat the living hell out of everything. Well, you've won down, the others have beaten a few, but nobody's gotten the full 8 yet, which I suppose is to be expected this early on. Most of the reviews I've seen were not exactly elusive about sharing those final bosses, so I believe I have at least seen an image of each of them. There's one that looks like a big ice dragon. I'm like, oh, that looks like my favourite. I am a sucker when it comes to dragons, to be fair, though. That one looks really cool. Is it when you go in for a run, you get assigned a random boss, or do you pick beforehand? Feels like you'd be forcing your way through in that event, just trying to make sure you get one over the others. Right, let's make sure we're on tier 11. Right, 3 chests to loot. Yes, Ravenwatch Screet. Highly recommend it if you're a fan of roguelites. It's solid, very solid. It's got a beautiful art style, and all the menu design flow into that style. It's really well put together. And it's either multiplayer or solo as well. Every time you're leveling up your heroes, you're unlocking more abilities you can find out in the world as you level up. And it also gets you bits of voiced story, which is a lovely little twist. Oh, have you now? I expect you're a big fan of the roguelites as well, so it's very good. As I say, Geppetto, broken. Absolutely broken compared to some of the others. Right, onward. Because I enjoy and play so many roguelites, that tends to be my off-stream relax game, or genre, I should say. There was one that came out for the Blaze Blue series. Now, that's an Arc System Works fighting game series that... it's very convoluted when it comes to story. There's a lot of time travel and multiverse stuff. But this roguelike has nothing to do with that series. It just takes the characters from it, which is something I don't quite understand. But a solid roguelike. Takes their fighting game mechanics and just puts it into a roguelike. So it was a lot of fun. I nip at that on occasion. It's been out of early access for a bit, and they've added some content there as well. But there's a lot in the backlog when it comes to roguelikes. And screen in the chat. For Night Rain, you pick the final boss. The rest are from the random pool. Depending on said final boss. Interesting. One thing that was common in the reviews I heard is kind of the marketing bait from bosses from prior Souls games, that there aren't actually that many. Now, I've stayed mostly spoiler free. I did see a thumbnail this morning which spoiled one of them, which wasn't in the pre-release footage, and I was like, son of a bitch. So I was a little annoyed by that, but I'm still curious to see, and I know they've got DLC coming for later in this year. And the whole point, it was one of the other directors on the From team, someone else basically having a go at it, while the rest of them and Miyazaki work on the Dusk Bloods and whatever else they got cooking. Which should well be another proper single player going of it. Well, I'm glad to hear that, Scree. I'm glad to hear that. Might be one of those situations where reviewers just weren't able to put the time in to see everything. So I'm glad to hear there's a wee bit more of it. Because there's so much opportunity there for a load of folks who came in with Elden Ring, having never seen any of the characters from the prior Souls games, like the Nameless King from their pre-release material being a grand choice. I'd love to see Artorias. I know that one's not as likely, but man. Very biased. A lot of love for Artorias. I got spoiled from I want to say it without being too spoilery. A Dark Souls 3 boss with... It's hard to do this without spoiling it. For those who have played Dark Souls 3. A humanoid Dark Souls 3 boss. That might narrow it down enough when we've already mentioned the Nameless King. So the one that isn't the Nameless King, unless there's more than one. But it was a very popular boss from Dark Souls 3 and had a very unique attack pattern for that game. Yeah, I reckon you do. I reckon you do. Have you seen many of them yourself? How many rare spawns are they in that game? Because that's another thing. I know the map can change a little bit from some environmental things that pop up and take a chunk of it. No, I meant another one. But to give any name to it, I suppose, if you're interested in Night Rain and you don't want to be spoiled on one of the optional bosses, mute the stream for the next 5 minutes or so and then come back to it. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Alright, as you wanted. It's the Dancer of the Boreal Valley. And again, the Dancer was one of those fights in Dark Souls 3 that has very specific timing on its swings, meant to throw you off, based on everything else in that game. Same with its soundtrack as well. It was a beautifully done fight. And so I just saw a thumbnail this morning saying, Elden Ring Night Rain Guide to the Dancer, and I was like, you son of a bitch. Screw it with the, oh no! That's why there was a warning! Oh dear. But yes, I thought like, oh, that's really cool. I wish I could have had that ambush me at some point. I know there are some bosses that do, like Morgott from Elden Ring comes in and ambushes you sometimes while you're out and about. Feels like a dead shot shoe-in for the Pursuer from Dark Souls 2. But as far as I can tell, the Pursuer does not show up. And may well not be in the game, which just feels like that's what the Pursuer was built for. Prime opportunity for any boss to make an entrance in Night Rain. The Pursuer should have been top of that bloody list. But again, they've got the opportunity with DLC. And it sold pretty well. Fair enough, maybe there's a decent amount out there that folks have yet to discover. But between the online collectiveness of the internet, it's hard for things to stay secret for very long. There's a bullet hell game called Nova Drift. Also a roguelike of its runs. That I got on early access a long time ago because it was on sale for like a couple of quid. And that released out of early access a bit ago, but they did a post yesterday talking about a space whale. That was initially a joke in the community, and the dev said, I had it in there so this space whale would show up as basically a 1 in 7,773 chance. And I would straight up gaslight people in the Discord about its existence. And he finally announced it proper the other day. So I love seeing stuff like that. The more secrets the game can have. I think one of your old favourites, Enter the Gungeon, did a marvellous job at that. Even within the realm of roguelites or Hades itself, very few had the level of secrets that Gungeon had. And from Screet in the chat, they've done a lot of cool new stuff that feels insane in a Souls game. Yes, I've heard the bosses take a lot of inspiration from MMOs. They're a lot more MMO feeling. Clearly designed for not your solo player, from what I can tell. But to be fair, as someone who tends to play solo, that makes me all the more eager to give it a go at some point. As I said though, if folks are about for the evening streams and want to jump on, we'll do passwords, we'll invite people in, we'll have a grand old time. There'll be a little bit of a half hour as I look around the hub, read what lore I can, go into I know there's like a little training area of sorts. At least I've seen footage of a training area. Because that will be very useful going in. How have you found the itemization and the picking up and doing of items? So I know a lot of that game is you have to move at pace. But I was worried at how much a build might differ overall. And I think that's one of the things about Night Rain that excited me the most. Because I think I said this on the stream the end of last week. I play those games great sword in hand, lightning in the other, some healing spells, and that's how I Souls, generally speaking. Bloodborne obviously had its own thing, and Sekiro was its own beast, but a roguelite seems like prime opportunity to experiment with weapons and builds and different things. Makes me very eager to give it a go in that front. I saw in the IGN review, the Archer class actually works really, really well. Because they've changed a lot of how the animations interact with each other. And even you have a backstab with the bow. And I was like, that's pretty impressive. Elden Ring could have done with that for its bows. Bows have always had the short end of the stick in Souls games. In Elden Ring, magic really got, like, Dark Souls 3 to a lesser extent, but especially in Elden Ring, it felt like magic has finally hit its stride. as a main way to play that doesn't just kind of feel like you really, really have to push it. But to hear the same thing for bows as well in this is very cool. And I saw there's a character that's only just really been shown off with release footage. That is like the Sekiro parry mechanic Elden Ring game. Who can also do a major transformation into a big beastie, which... interesting take. I suppose that follows along in Sekiro's storylines. A load of people going mad and becoming monsters. Spoke to Mr. Cat about it the other day. Regular of the channel, for those who don't know. Said it very much feels like they've nailed that Sekiro vibe. Which is really interesting to hear. And again, while it won't be for... tentacles! While it won't be for everyone, clearly. It's a multiplayer roguelike, for one. I like that the team and the folks at FromSoft have the opportunity to try new things. Push the envelope a little bit. Especially for those designers who Miyazaki is giving a chance to direct their own games. All in all, it just leads to more lessons. From as a whole. And those series. How are we doing? We've got one group of those remaining, but I don't really care. The only loot I'm after in Delves at this point is the crests at the end. That's all we need these days. We've defeated the underpin. And as far as solo aspirational content in WoW goes, it's a wonderful step to have. But he has been dealt with now, so my care for the gear game's a little lessened. But we are going to need it for the horrific visions we're still doing. And for Dastardly Duos coming out tomorrow. Those who don't know, that is a leaderboard style thing with 2 dungeon bosses and a load of modifiers, from what I understand, that you can throw in at the same time. To ramp up the difficulty there. That you can either do solo with the followers from the follower dungeons, or grouped. And I'm really eager to see how that plays out. And then every week they're going to add more quests and more bosses to that before it eventually disappears. It is a time-limited thing. And here's hoping they take that into account for rewards for player housing down the line. It'll be very tasty indeed. The fact I have done Zekfir and the Underpin solo and got those achievements is something that can be rewarded when it comes to player housing. Give me a trophy, a slap on a shelf, that kind of thing. It'd be very nice. We know a lot of that's going to be retroactive, so I'm hopeful. There we go. And the other one, and that will be all 4. Again, not that their chest at the end gives much at this stage, but might as well while we're here. We need one more goblin. That's you over there. How long do you see Night Rain lasting in terms of playtime, Scree? Is it the kind of thing where you get these 8 bosses down once each and then job done? Pack it up, uninstall? Or is there enough to continue? I know there's some story stuff you can earn for repeated playthroughs. And there's a lot of bigger runes to be collected. Well, I've heard the character versions of those feel pretty strong in and of themselves. But until DLC, do you think after one of each boss that's enough to keep people engaged? Will there be a let me solo her fella? Out and about, waiting to group with people. I do know there's a load of skins to unlock, and a lot of them are Dark Souls references. That seems pretty fun. That's more of what I wanted to see. A lot of people running around as the Onion Knight or Solaire. Delightful. It was always fun to see between Dark Souls 1 and 3. It's interesting thinking back on that trilogy. How 2 was so loosely connected at best. And then 3 was very much like a greatest hits. You saw characters like Onion Knight return. And you go back and play Dark Souls 1 and remember how truly buggered their storylines were. I remember the first time through Dark Souls 1, not understanding how the quest lines worked at all, because they were really obscure. If you think Elden Ring's questline are obscure, you've no bloody idea. Dark Souls 1, it was way worse. Way worse. At least Elden Ring, they patched in the ability to see them on the goddamn map. Dark Souls 1, it was completely unclear where they'd end up. And Solaire, I got him all the way to the end. You had to summon him in for every boss fight he could be summoned in for. You had to have him not die during those boss fights. That was the same in Dark Souls 2 as well. And then you get him all the way to near the end of the game. And there's a room, a corridor, with some little face-hugging alien-like bugs in it. That the moment you approach them, they'd run away and they'd try and hide. And like the crystal lizards before them, if you did not kill them, you would not have the opportunity to do so again. Now, being the big, slow, greatsword-wielding fool that I am, I did not realise, A, I would never have the opportunity, and B, that I had to kill them all. Because if even one got away alive, the next time you saw Solaire, he would invade you as a foe. And one of those face huggers would just be on his head. And that was the end of his story. And it was heartbreaking to realise that that was happening the first time through. Like, my friend, my son, bro, how has this happened? And then Googling it furiously afterwards, how to say he has bug on his head. Like dying purposefully the first time and everyone being like, nope, you buggered it. You had to kill those bugs. And I'm like, right, well, how do I? Of course, there's no reloading a save in this game. Oh, I'm just fucked. Oh! My heart. And then Siegmeyer, like, his questline could go in so many ways. At one point, he offers to sacrifice his life, help you escape through an area, and jump into these really nasty enemies that were giant vacuums with mouths, pretty much. And there's a big old room of them. But if you clear them out, and he survives, he goes mad because he feels he can't be heroic. He can't handle anything by himself. And so he hollows. And you and his daughter, randomly, never mentioned before, as far as I remembered, had to then go down to a really obscure part of the game, a real optional part of the game, and kill him down there. And it's just that there was no happy endings without a lot of hard work. Again, the Solaire one did have a happy ending if you knew beforehand or did it thereafter. It was the same in Dark Souls 2. All of those characters, you go through their quest line, I can't remember one who had a happy ending. I'm curious when it comes to Night Rain, how they're... Because you can't put a load of item descriptions on stuff when you're helter-skelter bombing your way through that game. Feels like it would go against the speed at which you're trying to be moving. But I know the characters, the more you complete runs with a certain character, the more lore you get for them. We'll have to see how it goes this afternoon. Again, ideally we'll be starting up around 4. That's GMT, of course. Let's see where we go for there. Have a swig of his beverage as we fly over to the next spot. Oh, before I forget, Friday this week, after the regular evening stream, somewhere between 9 and 10 PM, is the Summer Game Fest with good old Geoff Keighley. With announcements and trailers and all that good stuff. So we'll be doing a watch along. Now I'm sure like last time, I will get copyright striked. Or at the very least have copyright claims, which means then over the weekend I'll just have to every hour check and get the auto editor thing on YouTube that they've had it, where it basically goes through and tries to mute the bits that were claimed. The Game Awards last time, at the end of last year, it was like sections of 3 seconds to 15 seconds. Sometimes with barely any audio on them at all anyway, but you had to go through and scrub it all. And YouTube's automatic system for doing that worked, but you had to do each one manually. As in, set it up, leave it going, but do them one at a time, keep going back and checking it, and then repeatedly going through that process. So it was a bit of a chew on, but it was mostly sorted out before we started up again on Monday. Which is annoying because it takes down the video every time you do that. Which for a smaller channel like me, you know, we're not at the point where monetization being limited by such a thing is an issue. But I imagine for a lot of creators, and I've heard, it's a very frustrating process. Even though Jeff has said many times, oh no, you're perfectly safe to stream this and whatnot, but all those bots from various music companies are just waiting for them to use licensed music so they can send all those bots out and scrape some money off people. It's disgraceful stuff, but such as it is. Yum. To the shitty underwater one. It's alright, we have underwater breathing potions. No. Right, 2 more delves to do. Again, we don't need a 4th one today because we're not worried about the Grand Vault. We're all hero geared out. We just need our crests.
Need some help?
That is a bit...
Get it done.
Paying 200 gold for something I don't need. Disgraceful. Maybe I could have ignored her and just kept going. But yeah, when it comes to the Summer Games Fest on Friday, it's really interesting because I'm sure most devs were anticipating Grand Theft Auto to take the year by storm. But now that's not on the cards, pardon me, there is a good chance a lot of folks will have moved announcements up and forward, maybe moved release dates up and forward, jiggled it all around, so there is more opportunity now for surprises than I think there's been. I'm sure Jeff, more than most folks, had an inkling or some insider knowledge as to the situation with GTA 6. I'm sure he was like, right, are you wanting a trailer here? And out of all the companies, Rockstar's one that doesn't really need Summer Games Fest or the Game Awards. It's not like they needed E3 before it. Just because it's so massive. You know, compared to any other video game on the planet, Grand Theft Auto is a leviathan in its own right. But now it's out of the way, I'm really curious. We won't see too much, I don't think, from Xbox, because they've got their own showing. On the 8th, I believe, on the weekend. We may stream that. We'll see what time on the Sunday it ends up being. May just end up watching it in bed, but we'll see how we get on. There's a Devolver Digital one, there's a few indie ones, there's a PC Gamer show as well. We'll have some announcements. So it's going to be a busy weekend for announcements, but I certainly expect some very fancy surprises. And I hope when it comes to Microsoft, we actually get to see some more of the new Fable coming next year, because I love Fable as a franchise. It's one of the old school RPGs that got me into RPGs. I remember very clearly going to an old mate of mine's house for the first time, and he had a dinky laptop set up on his living room table. And I'm just looking at it. It's how I was introduced to WoW for the first time. Same laptop on that table. He was just fighting a dust devil in Westfall. And I'm like, what on earth is this? It got me into WoW that way. But in the same vein, he was doing like one of the big arena quests in Fable 1. And I was just transfixed. I think we talked about it at the end of last week as well. But it just had so much charm. In a way that certainly Fable 3 didn't capture in the same spirit. Fable 2 I think did a lot better, but especially, it's the studio who makes Forza Horizon, I believe. Doing it now. The car people. So at the very least, it will be a very pretty looking game because they do that shit real well. Can't argue with that. I'm not one for realistic car games, but I can't deny the skill of the craft when it comes to making shit look real and shiny.
Fantastic.
But in terms of anything else, I don't know, what are people hoping for? Leave your live or in the comments. What do you want to see from Summer Game Fest? Is there something that's burning a hole in your gaming desire that is simply not about yet? We've had stuff that was announced at prior Game Awards, like the RTS we mentioned the other day. That got cancelled, so it's not a guarantee anything we see will ever end up coming out, but Jeff does like to put his surprises. He does like to highlight some indie games as well. It's always lovely to see. And actually, the Switch 2's this week, isn't it? Right, that's like the 5th or 6th. But Nintendo, again, Nintendo's in a similar vein to Rockstar. They don't need Summer Game Fest or the Game Awards to show off their stuff. Nintendo can just do a direct and people will watch. You know, it's in the bag for them. So I can't imagine. We know Jeff loves Hideo Kojima. There's likely to be a 10-minute section on Death Stranding. Wouldn't surprise me at all. And Death Stranding 2, from what people have said with their hands on, they're like. I never played the first one. You know, babies in jars and walking around a lot. Like, I know that's selling the game short, absolutely. But it wasn't. Nothing about that said to me, I need to give this my time, necessarily. But a lot of people did love it, and the whole working together with people in a pseudo, almost in that same way that Souls does, that pseudo online fashion where people are leaving stuff and secrets and hints for you and ways to traverse the land. That's really cool. Like, that's such an interesting gameplay mechanic. And the more you heard about it over time, that people had essentially terraformed the land to create crossings for newer players, it's fascinating. So whether they strike gold again with that remains to be seen. I know they're trying to make it a bit more active as well. It seemed like what people were saying, there is more shooty shoot about with that one. And then last time Kojima had that game that was oh, I've been forgetting to destroy bait because I'm an idiot. Have I missed any behind me? No, there wasn't any behind me, that's fine. But they had from Key and Peele, that fella come out, you know, comedian fella. Great shorts. See him all the time on YouTube. Enjoy their comedy a great deal. But they were doing that horror game with Kojima. Felt like then Kojima was doing more of a publishing thing with them. So maybe there'll be another surprise there. Maybe Kojima's got a lot of buns in the oven. I think with so many studios getting shut down and cancelled as well, like, it's hard to know if anyone will come out taking swings because everyone's so risk averse, even more so than they usually are in the games industry. We just had yesterday People Can Fly, the folks behind Bulletstorm, then Outriders. And Outriders I actually really enjoyed. I really enjoyed Outriders. I thought it was great. The DLC endgame did not function as well as the main game's endgame, but it was alright. It turned out the build that I was playing ended up being busted, so I completed it in a day. Went to their Discord like, hey, is this normal? Am I meant to have finished all the endgame content right now? People were like, nah, that build's just busted. I was like, oh, well, I'm kind of done now, though. But they had 2 projects in the works that are both now cancelled. That didn't get funding. And that studio's been helping make Gears of War stuff as well. So it's like they weren't getting publishing to do stuff on their own, only to be support studios. And that must suck for the devs in that studio. Especially when you're trying to build your own stuff off the ground and do something interesting. But big publishers are not going to sign off on those bets. You know, you've got billions sat on a table. You don't want to risk throwing it away. But from a business perspective, I get it. And then anything new that comes out becomes a success. You look at Last of Us, you look at Horizon. Those games are then not left to stand on their own 2 feet. Suddenly it's a franchise. Don't get me wrong, when we enjoy a game, you want that franchise. You want to play some more of it. But the devs on the inside, I can imagine it's just a nightmare, especially these days. So what Jeff has ended up getting for the Summer Game Fest remains to be seen. I always try and be hopeful. Morning, Emilis. How are you doing today? Did you have yourself a nice weekend? Just cracking through our delves. Not as many today as we only need our gilded crests now, but gotta get them done. And dastardly duos tomorrow. Some Elden Ring Night Rain this evening. Oh, I missed one of these bloody corpses. Where are you? There you are. Let me through, Coral. No, it triggered. You son of a bitch. Please! I'm just gonna bubble. It's fine. There you go. 2 more. So many fish. It's fair enough, Emless. You're not having to rush out for the day. Take it steady. Enjoy yourself. It's a bit more shut-eye if you can. Mind you, the older I've gotten, the more I get annoyed if I sleep in these days. I'm just like, it's my weekend. It's 3 PM. Damn it. Mind you, we did go pretty late on Doom on the Friday night. It took me way longer than I thought. It was like 3 boss fights back to back. That second one in particular being a real good but really difficult boss fight. Very much enjoyed it. But I was considering starting up over the weekend the higher difficulties still, but on doing some research, those higher difficulties were pretty much just hardcore modes. And you know, one of them gave me like a paladin colour scheme, so I was tempted, but even the easier of the two was like, okay, you can use the bonus lives you find about a level, but if you lose those and die, we delete your save game. And given some of those fights, Prospect was real shitty. Get out of it, tentacles. Whoa! Stuck too close to the blue. Here, you shitbags. There we are. See, for me, it's always a nightmare to fix my sleep schedule. You end up raining insomnia in with it, and you're just a few hours out. I'm better than I was some years ago. It used to then be, right, let's try and stay up for a full day to wrangle it back in place. And sometimes that would work, and sometimes you would second wind and keep going even longer. It was like, please. But a lot better these days. But I'm very envious of the fact you can be like, oh, it's easy. It's an easy fix. But for some folks it is. Oh, get out of it. And down you go. Akari Delver damage dealer. Oh, nice. I'll take the achievement.
Time for some dynamite.
Open it up, Bran.
Not just the thing to blast through this. Stand back while I clear
Bran,
this.
we're underwater. How does that even work? Just regular ass dynamite, Bran. No Delver's bounty map so far this week, unfortunately, which is our biggest influx of crests. But we'll take the 7. I do have to keep 15 of these, just so when the next catalyst charge we get, I can upgrade my boots into the tier set. And I've kept them at 4 out of 8, because then the 4 gives me 1 colour scheme. And when I upgrade them to the 5, it unlocks the mythic colour scheme, so I get 2 for the price of 1 on my transmog. It's delicious. See, I've heard that before, Emily, and it did not always work for me. In theory, it's meant to just work, but it did not always do so for me, and it left me so annoyed. I think there was one time where I struggled so much, and I'd gone out for a walk around the village in the afternoon, thinking, alright, it'll tire me out, we'll help up, we'll sort out dinner, we'll mow the lawn, you know, do a lot of, for me, physical activities throughout the day. And just couldn't sleep. And it got to like 3 or 2 a.m. and I'm like, right, I'm going for another walk. Just to absolutely do myself in. Went on for about another hour's walk. Got back in. Got upstairs. Had a quick cold shower. Climbed into bed. Not cold shower, but you know. Not overly hot neither. And thought, right, I'm knackered. This should be fine. I was awake for the next 2 days. It was fudging awful. I've said before, but longest I went at one point was like nearly a week with no sleep, and you just start. It's real bad, that. Don't recommend it. Try and get yourself to sleep best you can. Because when you go that long, you just start seeing shit, and it's very, very, very unpleasant. No good for your health. Right. Last one for the morning. Now, it'll be a little shorter, but not to worry. Dastardly Duos and Horrific Visions will bump up the stream's lengths a little bit. We do have a new patch on the way at some point. Before we get into this last one then, we're going to have a quick BRB, have a quick bio break, and then we'll crack on. So stretch your legs, refill your beverage. I'll be back with you in just a few minutes. I'll see you soon. And we're back. Thank you for your patience. Let's get this last one done. I think that's fair enough, Emilis, and it's probably the case with most folks. Now, I did a little bit of Googling, and the results seem inconclusive. Some folks are saying Dastardly Duos comes out tomorrow. Some are saying with the reset. And why is it on the calendar? I don't know, it's going to be... I think tomorrow I will start up like 10 minutes later. Log on and just investigate whether it's popped up or not. And if it hasn't, figure out something to do tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow is the time to start getting into some PvP on the Death Knight. There's still enough time in the season to go for one of the elite sets if I feel the need. Out of all of them with the whole purple theme, Death Knight's probably the one to go with. I wouldn't want to do any of the free classes we got the elite set with last time, which was the Drakfir, the Druid, and the Mage. Oh, it's the Trap Delve. Now we walk in. Oh, the treasure right here. Quickest delve. Aha! However, at least compared to most delves, they will try to do something a little different here, but yeah. What was his name? Spin Master? Something like that as the villain? Just... He had an interesting bit of story, so the fact they took it into a delve was solid, but... Still hope when they get to Midnight and Last Titan, they expand on delves all the more.
You're looking a bit rough. Take a wee rest.
Oh, thank you, Bran. Give me that Gouda. Your Cataclysm character, Emilis? As in leveling up in retail through Cataclysm, or on Cataclysm Classic until Mist Classic comes out, which I believe isn't far off, right? Oh no. We've been bamboozled. Puppet Master, that was his name. Yes, thank you very much. On our way. This one was one of the more difficult Season 1 delves, just because it took enemies from all the other delves, like these bastards. And these just ended up doing more damage than other enemies in these, so that was where repentance really came in. But at the moment, with how they're balanced and how our gear is, I am not worried. We will have to see how they step it up for the point 2. I imagine they'll do the same thing they did with Undermine, where there'll be a couple of new delves, and then there'll be a modifier for the older ones again. Except ethereal themed rather than goblin themed. Oh, getting a character ready for mop. I see. I understand. Wish you the best of luck, Emilis. I think Cataclysm's one of those points where, especially after the success of Wrath, that was where we first started seeing some really major divisions. I think for a lot of people that was because suddenly a load of the places they loved and knew were changed forever. And when you make such a big overarching change like that, you're never going to please everyone, but I certainly think by the time Last Titan comes around, we will see that again. I know we've talked about it before, but just in terms of where the story's going, and they want another 20 years of WoW after this. But wrapping up all of the story threads that have lasted these 2 decades, and all the characters and everything, you know, we'll see Illidan come back, we'll see characters die off. Feels like the world soul of Azeroth is going to burst from the core of the planet and create essentially a Cataclysm 2.0. Which will be very interesting. Obviously, they can't go too ham with it just because, well, at that point, you've put player housing in the game. Can't have people create and love their new houses and then blow them up. That wouldn't go over well, I don't think. But I do expect some massive changes. We know in the background they have been slowly over the years maneuvering the background tech for WoW. So it could work for stuff like housing, for the warband system. Things that 5 years ago were impossible are now doable. we know Legion Remix is coming. It's coming for the end of the year. It has been confirmed. Very curious what they're going to do there. A lot of problems to solve. A lot of delicious transmog to earn. I pray that they separate character progression and the gear you'd get from the cosmetics, because having that currency be both of them really slowed down my progress in Pandaria Remix. And while I did love it, I really enjoyed it as an opportunity to level alts. Now I don't need to level alts. Now it's purely for the collectathon. Unless there's every opportunity that they use that as a moment to expand the class race combinations within WoW. Maybe that's time to expand Demon Hunters from just the Elven races. Again, Hearthstone's already shown that they're willing to put other races in a Demon Hunter outfit and make them Demon Hunters. Will we finally get Worgen Paladins? That's my hope. That's the only class combination that I'd actually change my main for. I mean, with the caveat, goddammit, just give Worgen Tails, you cowards. You did it for Vulpera. Do it for Worgen. Because why not, you bastards? But certainly, as everything's died down between factions, between classes, a lot of the limitations don't make sense now. If Undead Forsaken can be priests and use the light, what's stopping them being paladins? Especially when you're going to have people in those order halls again. Change it up for each class. That'd be the time to do it if they're ever going to do it. But every time I've thought about Legion Remix, I have not put into my head the sheer amount of bonus content Legion had. Right? Because it wasn't just the main stories and the order halls. That's where we introduced world events for the first time, or rather like world quests and that whole system. That's where we had mythic dungeons properly for the first time. Legion, like tower for those challenge mode fights. Everything that happened with Suramar. Dear God, remember Suramar? That's what I'm saying, Emilys. There's a lot of hints in the lore about light-focused Forsaken that the Arathi were resurrecting. So a new avenue for the Forsaken there. But would they just do that within Legion, or are we going to get some story beats in the 1.5s, 1.7 nature? Maybe this upcoming one with the Arathi in 11.1.7, that might be an opportunity to finagle in some Forsaken stuff. That might be a ways to go for that. On Legion, Suramar was such an interesting bit of content for Legion at the time. Obviously, you couldn't fly. There was some subterfuge. There was trying to get around Suramar without being arrested all the time. There was the withering, like, roguelite minigame, where you would go through with your army of withered. Not to mention, then, the patch zones. Argus? You know, you've got a whole other planet going on. What was the patch bit? There was the Broken Shore. Vashir was or Nazjatar was Battle for Azeroth, wasn't it? What was the middle patch for Legion? Or was it just the Broken Shore and then Argus? I'm sure there was something in the middle there that I'm forgetting about. It's going to be in here somewhere. Legion. Yeah, there was the return to Karazhan stuff. Can't remember. Trial of Varela was like a middle of the road raid. Invasion points, they were new. Maybe alright, maybe it was Legion launched, then Suramar got expanded upon, then the Broken Shore, and then we did Argus. It might have been that. Either way, Legion has a boatload of content, and while Mists had a lot of content, Legion just has so much more. But I think there's a lot of interesting problems to solve over there. And I just hope they've learnt the lessons from Pandaria Remix. Weren't there legendaries at some point in Legion? Like more randomly dropping legendaries? I know, we're old. It was a relative long time ago now, Legion, when you put it into perspective. Free you. Hey, that's everybody. Let's grab this chest. It's a web chest. Does that mean I'm about to be ambushed? I can't remember. Nope, we're good. Just a buff. Get out of it, mushrooms. Goddamn screechy voices. No, stab it. Go away. Honestly, I think it's going to give us a lot to do. And judging by the roadmap, Legion Remix comes out after player housing. So they will certainly have stuff in there that we can earn for said housing. So many Legion tables and chairs. Where's my Legion cushions?
Found a bit of gold.
It's going to be a lot. I'm actually quite excited to get in there and find out. It's just, again, other than an Earthen, which I'll probably end up deleting the Earthen I have and then just redoing it through Remix, but I still want to play a Paladin in Remix just because I loved the Paladin storyline and seeing Tyrion through and the Ashbringer and all of that. But Legion content is such prime opportunity to go through all the Xalatath stuff properly. Because I never did a Shadow Priest back in the day, so seeing like the inception of our modern protagonist would be really interesting. Because I've certainly watched videos on it, but I've never actually played through all that. So I'll be really eager to see how much they handle with Remix. And I think the success or failure of Legion Remix is going to really go to show whether they can do it for the less popular expansions. So I've said it before, I think Shadowlands is prime real estate for a remix. You take out the Covenant system in the way that it was, and you just give people the opportunity to earn all of those delicious cosmetics, rebalance Torghast in a way that works with how overpowered we'll be, and just go crazy with it. But I'm sure that's an even longer ways off. The Pandaria Remix was still going when I made this channel last year. Legion Remix comes out at the end of this one. It's not the longest time in between Remix 1 and 2. Especially with a classic as well. I think one of the strangest things was seeing Pandaria Remix come out and then the announcement of Pandaria Classic being like, So we're not creating the breaking point here, which means we're going to have Legion Remix and then we're going to have what? Legion Classic? Soon thereafter? Again, it won't be for me at that point because I'll have just played it on bloody Remix. And the webs. But there's certainly opportunities there. And out of all of the expansions, like, I think something to the effect of Burning Crusade Remix wouldn't go over well. Wrath's probably an easy one. But stuff like, I don't know. If you were going to do it for WoD, I'd take that opportunity to finish the storylines from that expansion that never got finished. Like everything that was meant to happen in Shattrath that never ended up happening. Give me my stuff, game. Thank you. No Delver's Bounty today. A shame. Unless it gives me it now. Nope, there's my crests. Right, how many are we sat on? 48, so I can spend about 30 of those. Very good. Let's head back, Brant. 500's 10D overall. We bought the couple of Baradishis from the trading post this morning, and the shoulders from the Prowler set, because got to get them shoulders. But I didn't really want anything else from there. Let's bring that key to release. I think WoD had some... It started off so strong with its story and the focus on the warlords themselves and the differences between the Alliance and Horde lines. That's where they really started leaning into the in-game cinematics a lot more, and I think it worked really well, to be perfectly honest. But then for the 0.1 patch, there was such a wait in between content. I believe that was like somewhere in the realms of 5 to 9 months, if not near a full year, until we got new content. And the 0.1 content, I remember just being like an opened up part of the initial map. Exactly, it was extremely undercooked. There was so much of it that just felt missing. The story that was there was great, but we went from having Garrosh as our enemy, not Garrosh, Gromash, there we are, as our enemy, to, by the end of that expansion, he stood on the hill with Urel and the rest of us going, "We did it together!" And you're like, Grom, my guy, you were literally and, you know, you were already over the hill at that point. It was just... the whole middle was missing. But it doesn't feel like Remix... I mean, Legion's going to be an unfair comparison. There isn't a load of story for Legion that needed topping up, let's say, for lack of a better term.
We will continue speaking later.
But for WoD, it might be a good idea to go back and do that. And again, there's cosmetics to be had there. There's some fancy, fancy stuff. Oh, I got a toy. Spotlight materializer 1000. What is this? Oh, it literally puts a spotlight on me. No, oh, it follows me. Well, isn't that nice? I think the spotlight itself was fine. You did not need the robot with the arrow. And unclick. Goodbye, robot. Have another gander at the trading post. So I'm going to get another 500 tendies. I've got 1,000. It's a very cool mount, but we're going to get the red version anyway. It's the blue and lava set. And just the chest piece for this one, for some reason, is missing. Even though it's listed in here. It's alright, it's just spiky and fiery. It's not for me. I do like these helms. I think I am going to pick up the blue version of that helm. What character would I bet on a Tauren. That looks ridiculous. And I think there's enough elemental axes in the game. I don't need one of those.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Another thing for player housing. You see these mannequins with just gear on them. Surely, when player housing comes about, we can just do that with our stuff, right? I can set as many up in my house as I want. I'm the blacksmith. Let me make some metal mannequins. Some fancy stuff on display. Oh, it'll be nice. Right, anything. I just got to sell these bits and bobs to Garib and Tarib, and then I think we're done for the morning.
I have calibrated my prices to be reasonable.
Again, the destruction of your stand is fine, you two. That's what you get for asking for null stones every other week. You get scumbags. So I think tomorrow what we'll do is I'll start up a little later, maybe 10-15 minutes or so. Just because that 10 AM there will be server time, so it works out to be about 9 AM here in the UK. It is new trading post, Emilis. Hang on, I'll run back over and do your run through. While I'm here, might as well. Cold double-headed Durg. Cold flame. Fire. A goat. Because I know some people like their goats. It's fancy flamey skull helms. Some axes. some dagger. Both in the blue and red flame variety. Same with a dark iron looking gun, blue and red. Orange prowler helm. Skirt. The vigilante mask. All orange. Same with the bandages. Blue skull. Brown shoulder pads. The Sunwell Badish, which is very snazzy, I will say. Void version, which does kind of go with my armor set. And then returning, we have the big old shredder. Sunny wear. More sunny wear. Hugget toy. Yep, look at him punch. Then a Pride Beach chair. For those who wish to relax in the sun.
Bye for now.
And the end of the trading post is the flame version of said two-headed beastie. With your usual ways. Again, if you just play the game, even a bit each week, you end up filling this out every time. So I think part of the trading post is you don't have to get everything each time. It's not going to be for everyone, which means you get to save your tendies for the next time. As I say, tomorrow I'll get on a little earlier. We'll see if Dastardly Duos becomes available. If it is, great, we'll do that then. If it isn't, we'll jump over to the Death Knight, I think. We'll do a bit of PvP, see how we get on, and then it'll be Duos the day after, Horrific Visions, our weekly LFR business. Maybe we see what this boat bash is. Because I have no idea what that means. Yeah, we'll see how we get on. Alright, for today though, I will say thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed yourselves, don't forget to hit that like button. Help pushes the video through the algorithm so more folks come hang out, play some games with us. Subscribe for more content here on the channel. On the weekdays we're at 9 AM GMT with World of Warcraft, and between 4 and 6 in the evenings we start up with other games. This evening, Elden Ring Night Rain will be starting up. Very excited to get stuck in and give it a go. But you can find playlists to all the other games we've covered and completed, like Doom the Dark Ages from last week, right here on the channel to binge to your heart's content. So until next time folks, much love, take care, and bye-bye.
A duck walked into an apothecary and he said, "Give me some chapstick and put it on my bill." It's been fun.